To get settled here. Again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar here today. We'll slowly start admitting people into this session. So yeah, we'll let everyone get acquainted to joining us. So for today, today's webinar will be on ChatGPT, your new AI-powered intern. Use it wisely. So again, thank you everyone so very much for joining us here today. Now, for those of you who are joining, feel free to pop a quick message in the chat box, just maybe introducing yourself, where you're from, and what you do, so we can all get to know each other a little bit better. So my name is David Beta. I'm a client services manager at BusinessLink. Now, as we get started here, BusinessLink acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. And again, these webinars are just one way that BusinessLink can help support your business. If you haven't checked out our website, please do see what additional services and programs we have to offer at businesslink.ca. Again, welcome everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you so wish. Now that brings us to our wonderful hosts, Ryan and Megan, who are here from marketing agency 910, based in Grand Prairie, Alberta. They're on a mission to help small businesses and entrepreneurs develop their brands, establish their online presence, and become self-sufficient in activating their digital marketing strategies. 910 have a very special offer at the end of the presentation for attendees, so please stick around and take advantage of it. So just a quick note to help us keep organized, and because this is such a popular session, we do ask for you to use the Q&A box rather than the chat for any questions that you do have throughout the webinar. This helps ensure we aren't missing anybody, and we can hopefully address all of your questions properly. And we'll do our absolute best to get through as many questions as possible. But like I said, this is a very popular session. We do have a lot of attendees participating. And if you do need to pop out early or you want a refresher later on, this webinar will be recorded and a link will be sent out once it's available on our YouTube channel, which will be in the next day or two. So hopefully that sounds good to everyone. I'll pass things over to 910 team to take it away.
All right, thanks, David, Julian, and Ashley. There's lots of BusinessLink crew helping to organize these events. Great turnout for today. So as David mentioned, as we're going, feel free to continue to comment and chat in the chat window. But if you're specifically directing a question that you would like for us to try to answer, put that in the Q&A. Lots on here, so we won't be able to get to as many, or to get to all of them, but we'll get to as many as we can as we go through. And I'd love to just see in the chat, who's familiar with AI and which tools have you been using? And today we're going to be focusing mostly on ChatGPT, but we're going to define this a little bit more broadly and go through it. So with me, of course, is the talented and smart Megan Jobson, leads our Digital Marketing Training Academy. So I will be switching it over to her, and we're going to be giving a little bit of an overview of AI and ChatGPT today, sort of broad overview of sort of how it's structured, how you can use it. Then we're going to go into a bit of a demo mode as well. So this is the 910 team. We're a small team, fiercely committed to helping businesses take control over their digital marketing. And so that's really our mission at 910. We're trying to work with small, medium businesses. We're trying to empower them to do more of the digital marketing activities in-house. So a lot of that really requires us to say there's some base knowledge and skills that need to be acquired by these businesses. So the Training Academy provides that, but there's also some foundational items that need to be in place first for them to be successful. And so that would be some brand, web, and so those are in line with our divisions as well. So 910 has a couple divisions. I just referenced brand. That's sort of the foundation of where everything starts. And so we did a session about that previously, and we tie that into Canva. We also do graphic design and print. We build websites. We help with search engine optimization and Google and all those things. And then we have our Training Academy, which is really what today's focused on. Within our Training Academy, we have a lot of focus areas. You'll learn more about it at the end. But ChatGPT and AI generally is increasingly a focus of our Training Academy. So you can learn that on top of social media marketing, email marketing, website marketing, you can about AI in your marketing as well. So it's good to define some terms as we get started. And when I think about AI, you go ahead and Google this. You will find a wide array of definitions, more or less technical, etc. You'll find analogies. You'll find some stuff that's really abstract, and you might turn yourself around and get pretty dizzy. So I like to, in the context of our training academy, and when we're working with clients, I like to simplify as much as we can and try to use some analogies so this becomes a little bit stickier for our clients, and as we're sort of working through projects with them as we're educating them through our training academy. So a few things to know about and to think about with AI, artificial intelligence, is this idea of big data. You've all heard big data, and so what does that really mean? And then this idea of pattern recognition and natural language model. So ChatGPT is a natural language model. So the first thing to recognize is big data, this idea that there is just archives and archives of information throughout the internet, from Wikipedia to all of the books that have been scanned and all of the websites. And there's just vast amounts of data, pictures, words, videos, databases, spreadsheets, all of this content, all of this information is out there. We all know this intuitively. And so one of the big revolutions is this idea that we can tap into that data. There's something, let's call it this machine, this system, that somehow has access to all of this data. And one of the primary things that it does is it organizes it, it categorizes it, it understands it, and it starts to recognize patterns. And to the extent that it's recognizing patterns amongst all of this data, that becomes really important at the next step when you call on this machine to sort through, to filter, to query, to get information from that big database. You can think of this large database. So all of these AI platforms are trained on big data, and that becomes their corpus of knowledge. And then when they're going through this, they have the ability to recognize patterns and then draw on that. And so then you're like, okay, well, how do I interface with that? And one of the biggest revolutions with these tools like ChatGPT, and if you've used them, you've recognized that you can actually just speak to it in natural language. So you can just type out your questions. And previously with Google, you had to, use, like you've seen this before, you ask a question as a sentence or a paragraph on Google. That doesn't really work. And you get you get maybe an index of all of these websites that might be relevant. Whereas with ChatGPT, you can just literally write out a sentence, and then it'll give you the information back structured in a sentence, and you can start to have a conversation, and you can go back and forth, and you're like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Instead, I meant this, not that. And you can have that interfacing with the machine in a natural language interface. And so you can do that by typing. And with me, I'm using the ChatGPT app quite often, and there's other apps, and you can actually just dictate, speak to it, and it does audio recognition and just converts that into text and feeds it into the machine. So that's kind of the thing, the three things that I'd first put on the table about AI and tools like ChatGPT. So I want to next introduce an analogy, and for the context of today's session, I want you to think about ChatGPT as though it was a digital intern. Okay. So the thing about interns, if ever you've been at an organization that works with interns, you get an intern that comes into the organization. They're super eager. They have a can-do attitude. They're relatively inexpensive. Sometimes they work for free, or they're working at a lower rate, and that's part of their practicum, part of their experience. They're super knowledgeable. They just came out of education, and they have specific knowledge about whatever the field is. But you're going to expect that they're going to make rookie mistakes. You have to supervise them. You got to give them really good direction, and QC, quality control, is a must. And the other thing is there's planning around the corner. There's always a stream of new interns that are willing and ready and well-trained coming in the pipeline. And that's the thing with AI as well. There's so many different platforms out there. And so when you think of a tool like ChatGPT, it's really important to understand what you're trying to achieve before you go to ChatGPT to ask it for help. And we're going to give a demonstration today about using ChatGPT in the context of marketing, but you still have to have some knowledge about marketing best practices, and you certainly have to have knowledge about your business and the goals and objectives that you're trying to achieve. Because without that, you're not really giving it any guidance. In the same way, if you just imagine an intern, maybe a legal intern, like a practicum student, if you don't give them really specific direction, they're gonna go around in circles. They're gonna do some busy work, and they're gonna come back and they're gonna produce some materials from you, the work that is produced, and you're gonna look at it and say, what the heck have you done? This isn't at all what I was looking for. And the person to blame in that scenario is not the intern. It's likely the person that didn't give them enough specific, precise direction and parameters and conditions. So just like an intern, with AI tools, you have to give them very, very precise, precise direction. So a seasoned senior lawyer can give very specific direction to an articling student, basically practicum students in law, that's what they're called. And if they're giving them very precise direction because they understand what they're looking for precisely, then the intern is going to have a much better chance at being successful. Jump in, Megan.
Yeah, I just wanted to add quickly as well when we're thinking about this analogy of the intern. One benefit that human interns have is that they are in the environment. They can pick things up subtly that your AI intern will not be able to. So I just wanted to jump in there and add that little piece as well.
Yeah. And, you know, actually another characteristic of human interns, and this will vary depending on the personality, is you may have an intern that is really curious and asks clarifying questions. And as the mentor, you might say, I work better with interns when they're really engaged and they ask clarifying questions. So you can train your GPT to say, listen, I'm giving you some direction, but if I haven't been clear enough, can you ask some clarifying questions so that I understand you're very clear on the parameters and the objectives and the goals that I'm set. And given that direction that you're looking for the AI to ask for clarification, it will. And again, it's all about the direction. So anyways, fast forward, I've given some direction to an intern. They produce the work, it lands on my plate, and I'm going to maybe pass that off to a client, or I'm going to go live with it. I'm going to actually, you know, take this work product and use it. Be cautious. You have to quality control that. And so every mentor would know that when you're working with an apprentice or with an intern, you quality check their work before it goes to market. And maybe apprentice is a better example of where we're in Alberta, which is trades rich. There's lots of apprentices in heavy industry and welding and electrical, etc. Those apprentices have to learn along the way, but they're going to make mistakes. And again, the same comments about the direction. It's really important that their work is checked before, that it's inspected, that is quality controlled before it goes live. So the same thing with AI. If you get this work product, it's up to you to make sure that it's met all your goals and objectives, that it's accurate, that the AI hasn't quote unquote hallucinated. Sometimes it makes up stuff that is just fictional, not accurate. And so lots of things to learn, but very, very powerful tools. So I'm curious to see I've noticed that a lot of people have used ChatGPT, Canva definitely has, Toby, Dolly, Canva. And so these are just an example of some of the more well-known AI tools. ChatGPT is, of course, what we're focusing on today. It is owned by OpenAI, which also has Dolly, which is Dolly is the image generation, which is actually built into the paid ChatGPT version 4. And you'll see some examples. Actually, this image right here, I asked it to create. Hey, I'd like a funny cartoon image of a young business person that has a digital intern ready to support them, help them, whatever. And that, you know, I was able to create that very quickly. And it created a few versions that I didn't like first, and then I iterated and I quality controlled. I gave it some direction. I was finally happy with that to use it in today's presentation. There's also Microsoft Copilot, which is if you're looking to use ChatGPT for the paid version, but you don't want to pay for it, just go use Microsoft Copilot. It has ChatGPT 4 built into it. Then there's Microsoft Designer, which is like a Canva competitor for creating graphics. There's Midjourney, there's Firefly, there's tools you already know like Canva, which we've been presenting on recently, that are incorporating AI into the existing tool. Plus, there's the app stores that have just an endless sea of the most popular apps now have some AI interface with them. So what you really need to recognize is, oh, this AI interface means that I'm going to be able to direct it to do something for me, for analysis, for generating photos, images, music, whatever. But again, the quality of that prompt really matters. So I want to circle back to when I showed all of our services. 910 offers branding as a foundational service. And even in our training academy, when we're teaching about ChatGPT or about email marketing or about website marketing, social media marketing, we always return back to brand foundation. So this isn't something new for 910. But what I want to underscore is if you're going to be using tools like ChatGPT, and we're saying that it's really important to prompt and give good context and parameters and context and information. What we're saying is that all of that information for your business is going to be represented in your brand. So when we work with clients and we create their logos and their visual identities, that's the visual aspects that you see. It's like the art that's created that's going to give the look and feel of that organization out in the market. But before we get there, we go through a brand strategy exercise. And effectively in that brand strategy exercise, we pull out all of this information. We draw out all of this information and document. And that information is then meant to inform the organization, its marketing, its communications, its products, its pricing, all of that. And a lot of this information that gets pulled out, you can consider part of the business plan, part of its marketing plan. And so, for example, audience persona. This idea that you can identify your target audience, which might be some businesses have multiple target audiences of teenagers, or maybe middle-aged parents or whatever it is. And to the extent that you take the time to describe your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, who's your audience, what are the characteristics we know about them, where do they hang out, are they more likely to be on Facebook or on Instagram, or would they be more effective to be reached through email marketing? And to the extent that we identify these personality traits that we could express as a brand that would be more likely to be well received by your target audience, all of this information is drawn out for one purpose, so that you use it, so that you implement it as you're going out into the market. And to the extent that you do that, you can then give that information to AI tools like ChatGPT. You can train them. And so if I go back to this big data where ChatGPT has been trained on all of this information that it can then later go through, sort and query and make pattern recognitions and then create work product with good direction based on that data, why not train it with just a little bit more information? So it's like, hey, ChatGPT, I want to create a custom GPT is what it's called. And I want this custom GPT to be created so that you can help me with marketing for Cupcakes, this cupcake company, which we'll introduce in a bit. And to the extent that we give all of this information to this custom GPT, then it is knowledgeable about our products, our services, who we serve, and we can even introduce the top keywords that we'd like it to use if we're creating blog articles, all this type of stuff. So creating a brand is really important because it's always going to inform your marketing, even more so if you're using these AI tools, because you need to give them good direction and you need to pre-train them with context. All of that will be in your brand strategy information. So with that, let me stop sharing and I'm going to hand it over to Megan, who will take it from here. And then I'll be monitoring the chat and the questions as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate that. So I will just get my screen sharing here. So this is ChatGPT. You can see that okay? Thumbs up from you, Ryan. Perfect. Awesome. So one of the things that we'll introduce here is something called the custom GPT, which is what Ryan was just talking about. A lot of you in the chat were mentioning that you have used ChatGPT quite a bit. And a lot of people are very familiar with the general kind of chat model. What ChatGPT 4 has introduced is something called a custom GPT, where you can pre-train it with all of that information that Ryan was just talking about and not have to give it the context every single time. So what you can do is when you are signed into your account, making sure that you are on the ChatGPT 4, we just jump into your little profile button here. We go over to My GPTs, and it will take us to, as it's loading, all of the GPTs that we have created. So what we've done here is we have uploaded specific information regarding each of these unique purposes that we're trying to accomplish, right? So the 9-10 Training Academy, this is the 9-10 training program that we will talk about at the end here as well. But this is programmed specifically so that we can brainstorm with it. Okay, students are asking a series of questions about this topic. What would be a good conversation to have with the students during one of our live classes? And then we have our web wizard, which is good for building content for websites, right? And then we have a series of custom GPTs over here that if we click on to explore GPTs, we can see there's actually a really wide library. So a lot of the GPTs that you will create, you can either make them public for other people to have access to as well, or private so that it's just your own use. But you can see here there's a wide variety of, it's kind of like the App Store, where there's trending, there's a whole bunch of custom ones by the platforms themselves, and then there's ones by users as well. So if we even just search for digital marketing, it will come up with a whole ton of custom GPTs on different digital marketing topics. And we can work with them, explore, test them out, see which ones work best for us. The really important thing with these to be conscientious of is, like Ryan said, you have to have a base understanding of how some of that marketing works in order to be able to ask the right questions. And I'll show you how, kind of the types of questions that you'll want to be asking in a minute here. So what we have done here is we have looked at, we created a fake company called Cupcakes. Basically what this does is allows us to create a lot of that background information that you would have with your actual business, and put it into a custom GPT so that we can showcase kind of some of the information that will be, that you'll want to be talking about. So Cupcake is a fake business. It is a gourmet cupcake catering business. They have a storefront with some bakery and cafe options, but they specialize in custom cupcake flavors and locally sourced ingredients and things like that. So that is the background on Cupcake Creative. So what I'm just going to do here is, one thing to be conscientious of as well is that there are there's two different kinds of AI. There's narrow AIs, and then there's more general multimodal AIs. So the narrow AIs are where they have one very specific purpose. So if we look at Midjourney, for example, the very specific purpose is to create images. If we look at some of the more multimodal platforms like ChatGPT, where we have image and language generation. So there's a lot of platforms out there that are becoming a lot more multimodal. And as AI develops, you'll see a lot more of those programs coming into the market as well. So what I'm going to do here is I have some notes on another screen, so I'm just going to copy and paste to help streamline the time a little bit here. But what I've done is I've created some questions to help me create a marketing strategy for Cupcakes. So I'm just going to paste in here. And what I'm doing here is I've asked this question where I'm wanting a year-long marketing strategy broken up into quarters so that I have a bit of a seasonal strategy going along. And I've asked some very specific questions as well. One of the key things that I have asked is there anything else that you need to make this year-long strategy? So I'm specifically asking ChatGPT to ask me questions so that it has all the information it needs to operate effectively. It doesn't take that much extra time, but it's a very key thing if I want it to operate the way that it needs to. So it's going to create a strategy for me. It's going to ask me some questions that I can clarify. So it looks like it didn't need any extra information from me. So what it's done is it's just jumped right into the quarterly strategies here. So we have content strategy for email, social media, and blogs. So we see that it wants weekly posts on Instagram and Facebook, kind of some of the educational side of things, a little bit more of the customer focus, featured products. We have the themes being cozy delights, that winter kind of warm, cozy feeling, right? And then we have spring into flavor, right? And you'll see that ChatGPT is often quite clever if you want it to be. It can come up with some really fun quips as is. So really great information here. It's not doing all of the work for me, but it is doing a great job at putting together that framework. Yes, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag, so just a little bit more context on Cupcakes, this fake company that we've created. Quite often we'll run webinars or workshops with various organization groups, startups, or even just the students that come into our training program. Sometimes they're representing a company that does not have a well-established brand, and they don't know who their target audience is, and they can't answer a lot of the questions. So when we're trying to teach them how to use ChatGPT, the type of prompting and direction that we would require them to give, they're really challenged to do that. So what we do is we say, well, there's a fake company that we built where all of that information exists. So you can provide that context to ChatGPT. And then as Megan has done, you can then prompt it and work through, campaign strategies on the monthly or for this target audience or whatever. And what comes out of that is this aha moment typically for our students is, oh, that's right, I do need this brand strategy for my company. Because until you have that information drawn out, how are you going to draw on it and direct the GPT to help you with a marketing campaign? Because it'll start to, if you say, I don't know what information to tell you, can you help me to ask me a bunch of questions so I can give you all the information you need to be successful at this task? It'll start asking all these questions. And then very quickly our students, if they don't have a brand strategy in place for their company, they'll recognize that information just isn't top of readily available. So anyways, back to you.
Thank you. And that's such a great point, is when you start, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you just go in blindly with prompts that aren't fully formed, and you're not asking for clarification or asking the ChatGPT to ask you clarifying questions, then you're not going to really learn anything about what you actually need to put forward. So it's really important to have that back and forth, because then you start to learn what maybe you don't know. And that's where the education starts, right? That's where you start learning what you need to put in place, the frameworks that you need to put in place, and build a really solid skill set around your own workflows and processes that make using tools like this so much more effective. And one of the things, just a little anecdote, they've analyzed a lot of school reports and papers over the last 5 to 10 years. And what they found was, with the introduction of things like ChatGPT, students who were not readily working through the information that ChatGPT was giving them, or proofreading all of the information, that there were very specific words that came up in the papers far more often than ever before. And so you can kind of see the people that are just blindly taking what it's giving them and not doing the extra work and producing kind of mid-quality results. So that really applies here as well, is you do have to do a little bit of the extra work to engage and brainstorm and that back and forth in order to learn how best to approach it. So that was a really great point. So we can see there's a lot of really great campaign ideas and structures in here to help us start activating, even some additional elements that we could encourage with our marketing for cupcakes. So I am going to ask ChatGPT to provide me with some different brand presence recommendations. So brand presence recommendations aren't necessarily marketing initiatives. They're more about how we want to show up in the world with our brand. I'm just going to copy that question over here as well, pop that in there, and then hit send. So we have a limited budget. We're a new business. We don't have a whole ton of extra revenue to be able to throw that into the world. So we have some recommendations that ChatGPT is offering us. So we have Cupcakes Creative. We want to leverage local partnerships. So it gives us some ideas to implement those things and some different considerations that we should have for our budget. So this is a really excellent way, and it gives a lot of detail. It's a really excellent way for us to look into the future as well.
Yeah, as I was saying, and sometimes again, it'll produce good recommendations or bad recommendations. And to the extent that you are someone who has training in marketing, which again, we provide in the Training Academy, then you can recognize which are good and which are poor ideas. And so the first one was about local partnerships. And you might say, that's a great idea. I'm thinking about a local partnership with a yoga studio. Can you help me with ideas on how a yoga studio and a cupcake store would do a cross collaboration? Or the second one was maybe a good idea too, about community involvement. We want to support youth education or schools or recycling programs. Give me some ideas on how we can. And then you might say the third idea is scrap, that we don't want to do anything with that. And here's why. and you've just trained the GPT, this is why that recommendation was not a fit, because it didn't satisfy X, Y, Z. And then again, you've given that more context. So this idea of iterating and working through these recommendations is what's really the most important part.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to look through these. I'm going to see that, you know what, this is fantastic. I think these are some really great initiatives. I want to think more about the actual content now. Okay, I have my frameworks and I kind of have an idea of where I want to go. I need some help coming up with some blog posts. So I am going to ask it to give me an example of a blog post it would write, so I can kind of get a sense of what it's wanting, or what it thinks it will be a good activation. So what I have done here is I've written in a topic, hosting a perfect birthday party, keeping in mind the brand persona of Cupcakes, so that very happy, kind of exuberant type of personality, and then focusing on a very specific target audience, so moms planning a birthday party. And we'll see what it gives me here. So what I've done here is I've given it some very specific direction, because if I just say hosting the perfect blog party, or hosting the perfect birthday party blog, it's going to give me something different than if I give it the specific direction of the persona and the audience. So it's writing us a great blog post. So we have some introductory topics, and it's broken down into a way that blogs typically should be. One of the things that we also always recommend is when you're looking at posting content online through your website is SEO optimization. SEO optimization is search engine optimization, which is curating your content specifically for platforms like Google, right? Where you are including keywords that you know people are going to be searching for, so that you show up on the search engine results page, which is really, really important. So we have a great blog post here, and I'll just quick show you, because I did this earlier as well. It actually gave me a little bit of a different blog post when I did this earlier, but what I've done is I've gone into my SEO MetaMaster ChatGPT. So this is not one we've created. This is one that's available to the public. So if you are really interested in creating SEO optimized content, this is a really great one as well. But what I've done is I've just copied the blog post that ChatGPT gave me. I'll scroll up to the top here, and it says, please analyze and rewrite the following blog post targeted towards an audience of moms of elementary aged kids planning birthday parties. Rewrite it to be SEO optimized with keywords included in the title and headings. Please also make recommendations for an effective call to action. So we have some really key questions in there that are specific to SEO, including our keywords and our calls to action. So I've pasted in the actual blog post that it gave me earlier, and then it's given me a new blog post that has keywords infused within it. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, just two things to flag here. So SEO metadata might be a term you're not familiar with. We teach this in the training academy. And it's basically the way you structure content on websites so that it's properly indexed and discoverable on search engines. And so ChatGPT understands all of that framework. So to the extent that you can give the direction on this content that I now have, please help me rewrite it so that it's following SEO best practices. No problem. I've given that very specific direction. But in the example here too, it's like, okay, this article that was just written, what was the tone? Is it formal? Is it casual? Is it humorous? Is it authoritative? Is it whimsical? Is it a combination of all of these? And again, how would ChatGPT know? Well, because you have to direct it on the writing style. And you could just say, remember the brand guide that I opened up when it had writing guidelines on writing style, please reference that. Or another thing you can do is sometimes an organization will have a specific writing style that's crafted by the owner. Upload 4 or 5 articles that you've written and say, here's 4 or 5 articles that I've written. Please read through them and understand the writing style so that you can emulate that, right? And so then you can get closer to using these tools to create a lot of work product that's really well aligned with your goals and your writing style. So anyways, back to you on that, Megan.
Thank you. And even with all this iteration as well, going back and forth with ChatGPT, this product is not what we're going to put out online. This product we're going to take into a Google document or a Word document and edit it and keyword it to make sure that it follows our specific brand voice. So this is not going to be the final product. It's a really good chunk of the way there, but it's not what we're going to end up actually using. So it also gave us a good call to action. to have the mom call us so that we can get their custom cupcakes ready for their kid. All right, so the other thing that I can ask it to do then is rewrite it in different frameworks as well. So I could ask it to please rewrite this post in the framework. So that is the attention, interest, desire, action framework.
Well, I just think you spelled attention there, but you grabbed it, Megan. Good.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
ChatGPT is good enough. It'll work through those spelling mistakes without issue.
Yeah, ChatGPT is fairly versed in human error as well, and will be able to catch some of those too if it's, yeah, like Brian said, close enough. So that it will give us a new version that focuses on this framework of the attention, interest, desire, action, right? So if you have an established framework that you use frequently or that you want to activate, there's 1.5 million different frameworks out there. Then you can actually use your GPTs to be able to activate that as well.
Yeah, different outside of the marketing context, but a lot of people will now use ChatGPT in negotiations. So they'll upload, the context of the negotiation they're having, and they'll put in the back and forth between the two parties. They'll say, help me craft a response using one of the many different frameworks and methodologies that are common within negotiation strategy. Same sort of thing. Marketing has once you understand and learn these base frameworks, what typically happens, a lot of university students will learn these frameworks and then they won't use them because they're complicated and it's difficult. But finally, these tools can be used effectively, especially if you're using tools like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Megan, just to check, we're at 11:37.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so this is the SEO MetaMaster. I'm going to jump back into my other chat that I had going with Cupcakes Creative. So this is the one that's pre-trained to the Cupcakes brand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it actually to rewrite the blog post again. And I'm going to ask it to rewrite it in the brand persona of a caregiver. What a brand persona or brand archetype would be a more apt description is the framework in which you write your content to access a certain audience. The way that you speak to them is going to be different depending on who they are, right? So, and who you are as well. So 9 and 10, in our training academy, we are very much the archetype of the sage. We're the person that's guiding our students through their journey. Another great sage example would be Yoda, guiding Luke through his journey to become a Jedi. So there's 12 very common brand archetypes out there that have a really long-standing history in the marketing and brand world, and really amazing resources out there. I won't get too far into it today because there's a lot. But what we've done here is we've given it a well-known structure that people know, and we have, or that ChatGPT knows, and we've asked it to rewrite in that style as well. So what we have here now is some keywords that tug at the heartstrings of a caregiver, like a mom, right? So we have dreamy themes, heartfelt invitations, nourishing delights, right? So we have some of those key language pieces that target the caregiver, the person that we're wanting to attract there. So it's a really interesting way to activate some of those frameworks that you may not necessarily be super familiar with and be able to activate on your own. All right, the other things that we can do with it as well, and I'm not going to get too far into it because time, but what I can do is I'm actually going to go into the chat that I did yesterday with it. I've asked it to create some social media posts on different sections of the blog post, and it's given me different captions available for the social media post on the different sections of the blog, right? And call to action and all of these would be learn more at our blog post, right? Directing people back to our website. And then, of course, it gives us an image suggestion as well. So what I've done here is I've gone in and I've said, please create an example graphic based on the image suggestion for post number 5. And it gives me a really gorgeous, vibrant image. Now, I do want to say there's a few things with image generation in ChatGPT, DALL-E, any image generation software that you're using. It's going to give you an image. It is not an editable image, meaning it's flat. You can download, I think they're JPEG files. This is not going to be brand compliant. This is not going to follow your brand standards. This is a good ideation stage. So you could look at that and say, oh, that's a really cool image. I might take that and use that theme, right? So use the cupcake look, but not necessarily those colors. So then I can go into Canva, I can create an image or a graphic that looks similar, but is actually brand compliant. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, once someone has been trained on some brand strategy and brand compliance, it is pretty easy to use these tools to create your own source photo or to browse through stock. You can browse through stock on Canva or Adobe Stock or Shutterstock. And so there still is a consideration of the image I'm going to use does meet my brand standards, it's in line with that, and then you go forth and use it. So, but if you don't have those standards in place, and if you're not trained to really pay attention to that, it's very easy to create something that is just misaligned with your brand, whether you've generated it through AI tools or you've got it from stock photos. Anyways, I have another point about creating stock, and I'll maybe hold that point until just a little bit later. Back to you.
Sounds good. My last point on the creating images with AI is just warning about consistency. One of the biggest things with using tools like this is that it's very, very easy and very frequently seen is if you're relying on image generation tools to just produce what you are going to post on social media, you're very frequently going to get something called brand drift. And what that means is that you're not consistently producing the same templates, the same types of colors, the same vibe with the image itself that goes along with your brand persona. And with brand drift comes a lot of mistrust with your audience. Audiences may not consciously start thinking about it, but it's very common for that break in trust to happen subconsciously if they can't expect a consistent product from you.
Yeah, I was going to add to that, Megan, that recently there was that Willy Wonka experience that used AI to generate the images on the posters, and it didn't live up to that brand expectation of what the actual event had.
Exactly. That was a big scandal that happened, and I think even back to Fire Festival, the big problem, that was a huge issue there too, and it's the break in trust between what's expected and what's actually delivered. And that's where we really want to focus on creating consistency in our voice, in our presence, in our brand expression to be able to maintain that trust with our clients. Absolutely.
Megan, one sort of consideration for everyone and then we got about a 15-minute time check here. AI tools, a lot of people are wondering, will AI tools, if I'm a marketer, is AI going to replace me? Is my job safe? And the thing is that the best photos that are being created by AI tools right now are being generated by photographers because they give the best direction. They can give direction to the AI on the shutter speed, on the aperture, on the light settings, on the composition, etc. Same thing. And someone who's using an AI tool for research for a legal case or for contract law, the best results are going to be when directed by a professionally trained lawyer who understands all of the implications of this. So to the extent that you have some base training and knowledge as a digital marketer, then you have the lexicon, the knowledge, the frameworks to be able to give that direction. So that's the thing that I really want to impart. It is not a panacea. It is not just the silver bullet that you can just employ ChatGPT to do all your marketing for you. It is an assistant. It is a digital intern.
Yeah. And there was an example a while ago, just shortly after ChatGPT was gaining popularity, a trained lawyer was using ChatGPT to draft a lot of closing arguments and things like that. And they got into significant trouble because they used ChatGPT, they had the language to be able to use it effectively, but they didn't check their work. And they actually ended up getting into some big trouble because they were citing case law that didn't exist. So again, sorry?
Hallucinations from ChatGPT.
So again, you can have the tools at your disposal to be able to use them effectively. You can know how to use them, but you still always have to check the work. So that leads us to our takeaways. So artificial intelligence is like an intern. We have to check their work. We have to give them good direction to be able to produce something that's actually usable. They'll give you something that is 80% of the way there, and then you have to take it the rest of the way. It's not going to give you something completely ready to share to the world every single time. That's just not how it works. So it's eager, it has all of the information, it's never going to get tired, but it is not 100% accurate every single time. The second, brand is important to be able to train your AI tools. And we talked about brand consistency. We talked about giving it all of the additional context to be able to write in your brand voice, to be able to create images that are kind of similar to what maybe you would be sharing online. It is really important to give the best direction possible. And this is how we do it, is through the brand frameworks. And through your brand strategy. Always check your AI's work. Enough said there. always QC. And then upgrade your skills. So you do need to have that foundational skills in order to use AI effectively, efficiently. You are going to run into a lot more issues if you don't take the time to actually learn some of those skills and to be able to practice and teach your AI and work with your AI effectively. It's going to make a much bigger difference in your workflow if you do have those skills. Brian, anything else you want to add to this?
No, I'm just conscious of time, so let's maybe go on to the next part.
Yeah. So we have some sessions coming up. Next is going to be email marketing. This is one of the longest standing digital marketing frameworks to be able to activate your digital marketing. So email marketing is a very, very common tool that a lot of businesses use. That's coming up next month. And then we have search engine optimization. I alluded to that earlier as well. And then TikTok coming in August after our summer break.
The one thing to flag about the first two, especially email marketing, is maybe less sexy of a topic compared to ChatGPT, but it's still a very, very valuable marketing tactic that gets good results. But then what's really changed is email marketing is so much easier to do now, because the primary challenge about email marketing is mostly the content creation. You just saw how easy it is to create content creation with ChatGPT. So it's as though email marketing is now super powered by ChatGPT. But again, only if you can draw back on that information from your brand so that you have a good sense of what you should be writing about anyways, and who's your target audience, and what are your calls to action, all of this sort of stuff. So you see that all of this stuff really ties together really nicely when you sort of learn them all together in unison.
Yeah, and if we extend that as well to search engine optimization, like Ryan said, it's not the most fun, sexy thing to learn, but it is so fundamental and foundational in your digital marketing that it's crucial to be able to understand it in order to activate some of those tools like ChatGPT. Before I get too far ahead of myself, so this is just a little snippet of kind of our look into training, how we approach your learning experience. Ryan, did you want to speak on this at all? Because this is something that you learned quite a bit about in your master's degree.
Yeah, so when I was doing my MBA, I was focused on creating this training academy, and we wanted to be clear on what are the most valuable parts of the learning experience that create the most valuable outcomes for students. And there was some research that I discovered that felt intuitive to me. It felt like in line with my experience, and it helped to kind of create a structure for us. So the first thing to recognize is that only about 10% of the value to a student comes through what's called the formal learning. This is your textbooks, the readings, all of the case study materials that you go through. It's like when you sign up for a course, here's all your materials, please read all of it before the course starts or as you go. And so there's value there. It serves as kind of the base, but only about 10% of the value in the learning experience is derived from that. Then the next 20% is from what's called social learning. So this is if you're showing up in class in a real university in person, or increasingly now over Zoom, and you're participating in class discussions, and you have the courage to raise your hand and ask a question. And then when someone else asks the questions, you're paying attention to. And then just like some of you are chatting in the chats, and we're having questions and answers back and forth, that's a social learning experience. And about 20% of the value is derived from that. But the lion's share is what's called experiential learning. This is the apprenticeship. This is the intern. This is the active doing. So we're really heavy in our training academy. You can just license the curriculum. That's the 10% that we'll talk about on the next slide. But the vast majority, maybe 95% of our students also join our learning community, because in that learning community, we get that social learning with other peers. And then what you're learning, you're implementing. So you just learn about SEO best practice tactics for writing headlines for a blog, go and practice, and then come back to the session and then get feedback. So we create a learning experience where you can learn as you go and practice and really heavy on that experiential learning, the 70% of the value. So
yeah.
Back to you, Megan.
I don't know how many times I've asked students, what's your learning style? And it's, well, I think I just learn by doing. And that's exactly right. Most people do learn most effectively through doing. So this is that first 10% of your learning that we were just talking about, that official curriculum that you can license online. What we've done is we have worked with the Digital Marketing Institute. They are the global leaders in digital marketing education, to get all of this certified curriculum for you. There are 21 course options total. There are 16 different short courses, what we call tracks. These are the 3-month options. These are really meant to upskill in certain areas. It's not going to give you a foundational understanding of all digital marketing practices, but it is really excellent to be able to upskill again in a certain specific area. We have specialist courses as well, which are meant more for digital marketing leaders, where you have a team working under you. You're not the one doing the activation every day, but you do have to learn significant leadership strategies. So we have some of those. And then this is usually the most foundational one, course option that you're going to have available to you, the Certified Digital Marketing Professional. This is the most well-rounded education for people who are doing digital marketing day to day. And it is also certified by the American Marketing Association, which is the leading marketing association in North America. So very significant certification there. And then all of our courses also do qualify under the Canada-Alberta Job Grant. So if you are working in Alberta with a business, there are some qualifications for students who want to come in, but our courses do qualify for this as long as they are partnered with our training community, which we'll talk about on the next slide, but this does cover 66% cost, which gets reimbursed to you after.
95% of our students that have come through the Alberta Job Grant, which meant that the government paid for their professional skills development. This is the Canadian and the Alberta government incentivizing and subsidizing skills development. So we have a skilled labor market. Yeah.
And I do believe there are very similar grants in other provinces. We have not worked with any of them, so I don't think I can speak to them in that way, but the Canada-Alberta Job Grant, for sure, we do work with consistently. So for you, we are offering a 15 to 20% discount on our certified curriculum, but we are also offering a bit of a discount on our training academy as well, or our community as well. So this is where the 90% comes in. So this is the classroom sessions. We have live classes twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where you get to interact with your peers, brainstorm, bounce ideas off of each other. I don't know how many collaborations have been started in our training academy through these classes, which is fantastic. And then, of course, like Ryan mentioned, you learned how to activate SEO through your blog headlines. Go write a blog and come back and we will have a conversation about it, and we will give each other feedback and learn and do that hands-on learning. So
the thing I want to add about this is some people, I think it is true to say that they're just better off the way they're constituted. They just want the books. They just want to do the 10% learning and that's enough for them. That's not the experience for most of our students. So the 90% that Megan just referenced is the 20% value from the experiential learning and the 70% from the in the trenches practicing and doing. That's what the community is all about. The other thing about the community is it also qualifies for the Alberta Job Grant. So if you choose to do the curriculum plus the community, again, 95% of our students do those costs stack together, and ultimately both can be subsidized by the Alberta Job Grant as well.
I do want to just specify though as well, Ryan, is that the courses in and of themselves, so if you just wanted to do the online curriculum, that does not qualify. It has to be paired with our community in order to qualify for the grant. So I just wanted to make that stipulation.
Thank you.
So what we are offering to you is, like I had mentioned, the 15 to 20% off of the course cost. We are also offering 2 months free in our learning community. So what you can do is go to this link here or scan the QR code and fill out the form, and we will get you into our learning community for 2 months where you can attend classes, go through all of the same experiences that our regular students do as well. And throughout that process, you can apply for the Canada Alberta Job Grant, so you're consistently learning. And then if you want to go through one of our other programs, we can help you through the application process for that as well. So pretty significant options there. And then continuing on in the learning community past the 2 months is $175 a month, which is a bit of a discount as well. So lots of really great things for you. Definitely check this out. If you don't go through this link, then you may not qualify for or we may not recognize you to qualify you for the discount. So definitely go through here and we'll be able to get you set up for all of that.
Yeah, I just I pasted the link in the chat, so you'll see it there. And again, you can either scan the QR code on screen or you can just look for the link in the chat. When Julian and the Business Link team sends out a follow-up email, that link will be there again. It is an exclusive link. So our partnership with Business Link is such that we're trying to make this program more accessible to small and medium businesses. So we provide that discount off the top to the Business Link stakeholders on this call. And then we help to walk you through the Alberta Job Grant to further subsidize. So certified digital marketing professionals, they're super knowledgeable. They really know how to use these tools. Megan, you're a certified digital marketing professional. You've got your certification through this course. And and I think you've seen how ChatGPT has really turbocharged your ability to be an effective digital marketer. So I don't think I have anything else. A big thanks to the Business Link team. We keep breaking records with the registrations and attendees. We had 665 people registered for this session, and we're super happy with the partnership, and would love anyone's feedback as they're learning from us as well.
Yes. I do see there's a quick question in the Q&A is a really great relevant question. How much time involvement does this take? We usually recommend spending about 4 to 6 hours a week on learning in the courses, because that's about how much time you should be spending on activating your digital marketing anyways. So once you're completed the course, you have that time carved out to be able to do that. Now, we do offer a lot of really flexible options. And so what you can do is do a lot of the self-directed and watch a lot of the recordings. You're not going to get the same type of experience as you would attending the live classes, but there are recordings available for you so that you get as much of that as you can while still running businesses and doing the outdoor guiding business. So that sounds really very interesting.
One last comment. We're considering doing an info session where today we talked about ChatGPT. Previously, we talked about Canva or whatever the topic is. But if there's interest from attendees to have an info session where we just talk about how do we apply, how do you leverage the Alberta Job Grant, what are the start dates, how does, just more information about the actual program, we're happy to do that as well. So with that, I pass it back over to David from Business Link to close us out.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for this amazing webinar. And just a quick note that you will get a link emailed out to you with the recording of the webinar, which will be hosted on our YouTube page. And that should be happening in the next day or two here. And a quick note, next month we are learning about email marketing. So be sure to sign up for that webinar happening on Thursday, May the 16th. We hope you can join us for that one. And again, I'd love to thank Ryan and Megan so much for sharing this valuable information for our clients and all the amazing entrepreneurs and small businesses right across Alberta here. And just as a final reminder, you can find more information out about Business Link and our services at businesslink.ca. That includes everything from speaking to a business strategist, all for free. And that's located on our website under our services business advice. We are connecting in person in Edmonton and Calgary by appointment. We also host virtual meetings and we also respond by email. And we also have other services like market research and a ton of other great things. So be sure to check out our website, businesslink.ca. So again, on that note, we'll close out. Thank you everyone for joining us today and have an amazing day.